Hello and welcome back to the Long Island Railroad Montauk branch for the August 2023 layout update. The first thing I want to show you is this Alco S1 switcher that I've had for 6 months or so, but for reasons that are unexplained, I've waited until now to put in a decoder and all the rest of that stuff. Now, if you'll remember, this is a lifelike Proto 2000 Alco S1. It's about, I don't know, I got it new in box off of eBay. It's 20 to 25 years old, somewhere in there. It runs like a dream. I can put it on speed step number 1 out of 128 and it moves. Look at that. Look at that. It's a beautiful thing. So I put in a TSU 1100 decoder. It came DCC ready with an 8-pin plug, so I had to make my own 8-pin plug and adapt the decoder. But that wasn't that difficult. Fitting it in was difficult. I thought I had more room in there than I did, but I was able to grind off a little bit of the, not much, just a little light housing thing for the rear light, the rear light, just kind of ground that down. Fit the decoder in there. It's roughly from here to, it actually goes into the cab too. I had to take the interior out of the cab, which was unfortunate. And luckily it was a lot easier to do than I thought it would be. I thought I'd have to like saw it out, but no, it pulled out once I got it out. I got, where'd it go? Here it is. This is an iPhone 13 speaker, or no, iPhone 11, I think. And it fits, you see, width-wise, it fits just right. It's perfect. And I thought I would have enough room for it to fit, and so I could like put it here, but it's a little thick. See, it's a little thick. So there's just barely not quite enough room to fit it in the hood, which is too bad. I'll probably take it and put it in a different engine where there is room. So I ended up using an old kind of semicircular speaker that fits into the curve of the roof. And I got a bunch of brain fart, bunch of those thingies, Keep Alives, from Iron Planet Hobbies, and I'm not blaming them at all. It's not their fault. There were a bunch of DCC Concepts Keep Alives that were selling for $3 each, so I got like 3 of them. Well, it turns out, if a deal sounds too good to be true, it probably is, because none of them worked. And maybe it's an English versus American thing, I don't know, but none of them worked. So I took KA1 out of a different locomotive and slapped it in there, and it works fine. So now I have another KA1 on order to put it in the older locomotive. I still haven't weathered it, as you can see, but I kind of like it the way it is. So I'll keep it clean for a little while and just enjoy running it, because it just does run so wonderful. Come on, there it goes. Look at that. Look at that. And one more thing that I forgot was the original light bulbs didn't work for some reason, which, 20-year-old light bulbs, whatever. But I did not expect that. So when I installed a couple of resistors and they didn't work, I'm like, oh, did I do it wrong? But it turns out no, it's just the light bulbs. So I replaced the light bulbs and they work great. So that's it. All right, the next thing I wanted to show you is this HON30 narrow gauge engine, for lack of a better term, that I built. And I say, yes, I built that. I didn't build the chassis. It's a Kato chassis, N-gauge chassis. It's exactly the same as in the other one back there. So they're speed matched. I'll put a little figure on him. You get an idea of the scale there. So let's see. It's all made out of styrene. I think it's 040 for the base. The sides are 30 and the top is 20. I added some handrails. Let's get them a little closer here. Put the access hatches on the side. I even gave them little latches. put some controls and some gauges in the back. Got the vents on the top and the front. And all the N-gauge stuff comes with those funky N-gauge couplers on the truck, so I cut those off and added some little N-gauge couplers, which are a bit of a challenge to make. I don't know if any, because they're kits, little kits. I don't know if any of you have tried to make those, but they're a bit challenging. So anyway, there's that. I'm pretty happy with it. It's not, I don't know, it's not exactly what I wanted, but it was a good exercise, and I think it came out pretty well. And there you can see I put the S1 in the background so you can get an idea of the scale. Let's put that puppy up here. See? A little bit of a difference. So another thing I did was did some more work on the ground cover in this area. So in this area, it's going to be like a work area, kind of a rip track area back here for the Owen 30 gauge stuff. So this is all gray for compacted gravel. And then over here for the ballast, I did a slightly lighter color than what I've used for the rest of the layout, just, to make it different. And then right here, you can see I got these. This is going to be a foundation I'll put in. I'm going to build an engine shed right there to store the two engines. So let's just swing it around. You can see I've got it all done, all the way down to the cardboard building. And I started working on getting the slope right for this right here. Got some styrofoam in there, temporary, of course. So it's coming along. I'm delaying building this building for as long as possible because it's going to be quite a deal. But I'll get it done eventually. So another thing I did, ordered it when I ordered the decoder from Streamline Backshop, who, great service, good prices, recommend them highly. So I got the UP7 LocoNet thingy so that I could plug my throttle in, and as you can see, it's here at the end of the peninsula. Maybe you can see that. There we go. So it can reach pretty much everywhere in the train room. Got the little stretchy cord for it, coiled cord. I got it because I thought it would cure the problems I've been having with my throttle, wherein the speed would jump around. I'd turn it to speed up and it would reset back to 0 or jump up to 50, or it was just doing weird things. Guess what? Didn't fix it. So now, well, whatever. Now I can do this. At least I don't have to worry about battery power anymore. Okay, that's it for that. It's not, luckily, it wasn't horrifically expensive. And last, but definitely not least, I spent a good week doing this. You've probably tired of listening to me complain about my crossing gates not being remotely activated. Well, watch this. Ta-da! I am just extraordinarily pleased with myself for doing this. It was not easy, mostly because I'm an idiot. But I put together I took some photos while I was doing that, so stand by for a little documentary on how I did it.
For years, my crossing gates at Greenpoint Avenue had to be raised and lowered by hand. I typically did it using my uncoupling tool. The gates themselves have enough internal friction so that they stay in place when in the up position. It worked, but it detracted from the operator immersion I hoped to achieve in my layout. Then one day, I saw these gears for sale on Amazon. A large assortment of small, hard plastic gears, all with the same number of teeth per inch for around $10. I added them to my cart and started making plans in my head. In order to translate a rotational motion to an up and down motion, you need a rack and pinion assembly, like what is sometimes used in car steering. The reason I chose this set of gears over the many others offered for sale was because it included 2 long racks. I drew up a quick plan, which is unusual for me, which is pretty close to the way it finally came out. The rack would attach to the wire coming down from the crossing gate. A large gear would engage the rack, and a smaller gear would turn the large gear, providing a reduction of about 6-to-1. A drive shaft attaches to the small gear and runs to the fascia where it gets turned by the knob. Having never done something like this before, I may have done things in a less than optimum order, but the first thing I did was poke a hole in the styrofoam and pass the wire through the board so that I would know where the gear assemblies would have to go. Luckily, I had had the foresight to include a crossbar between the crossing gate counterweights where just such a wire could be attached. Unfortunately, after some experimentation, it turned out that my counterweight assembly was just not sturdy enough to hold up to repeated pressure from moving the wire, so I had to rebuild them. Next, I bent the wire with a pair of pliers and hooked it over the crossbar in the counterweight. After some experimentation, I determined how long the rack needed to be and what size gears to use to get a comfortable rate of knob turning to gate raising. I wanted the operator to have to turn the knob several times in order to get the gate to raise, so that it would feel like something was really being accomplished. Since the gears couldn't just float in midair, I built a box out of styrene in which I could mount the gears. I couldn't think of a good name for the box of gears, so I just called it the box that the gears are in. Building the box turned out to be one of the easier things I had to do. I glued a piece of styrofoam behind the wire so that I had a place to mount the box that the gears are in. I then cut the rack to size and drilled a small hole in the top. I glued the rack to the wire, hanging down below the layout. I made sure that there was enough room to give the rack full motion. Then I carefully slid the box over the rack and glued it in place to the styrofoam. One thing I should have done is make sure both wires were the same length for each gate. As it is, one is a little longer, resulting in the knobs not being perfectly parallel on the fascia. This irritates me no end. I had to redo this several times, as I discovered several errors I had made. First, the rack needed more motion downward, so I rebuilt the little compartment it sits in, extending it down. This picture shows the extended box. Next, I discovered that the torque applied by turning the knob was too much for both Plastaweld and superglue, and that the drive shaft for the small gear kept breaking where it attached to the wooden dowel. I finally fixed this by using a metal sleeve and a different glue called E6000 that my wife recommended. This glue formed a strong bond that did not weaken the styrene rod at all. I used the wooden dowels to provide some heft to the drive shaft and act as a kind of flywheel. So once I resolved the dowel situation, I glued buttons to the ends to act as the knobs, and as you can see, the buttons are not parallel. So after some fits and starts, I successfully completed this project, and each gate now operates flawlessly. Next step is figuring out how to use the gears to open gates into facilities remotely. That will be great. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. And thanks to all my new subscribers, and soon I hope to reach 1,000 subscribers. Won't that be great?